All right, well, it's been a little while. I had to get some things sorted out with YouTube. But anyways, I wanted to do another video on SDRangel, but this time showing basically the server side of it, uh, hosting a remote software-defined radio, and then being able to access that sort of like RTL, TCP, and some other techniques of uh, sending the information over a network and then looking at it on the local side. So the setup here is a laptop, which I'm recording on right now, which is running DragonOS Focal. And then what you can't see is a Raspberry Pi 4 that I'm looking at on another screen that's on the local network, and that's running DragonOS Pi64 on it. And we'll go ahead and pull up a terminal window just to have it ready. And its default username and password is Ubuntu and Dragon. And so we'll move this off or to the background for a second here. Something that needs set up is this SDRangel CLI. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to be set up, but it's going to make things a lot easier unless you want to manually go through and interact with the API on the SDRangel side. Matter of fact, while we're talking here, I'm going to go ahead because it does take a little bit of time. If we look in the OPT, this is on the Raspberry Pi now. I'm doing this. Let's see. You want to go to the OPT install SDRangel bin, and you can see the SDRangel server file is there. I want to take a look at the help. I'm not going to change anything except for the address that it runs on. We'll go ahead and put the IP address. And we'll let that start up. And that takes a little while to start up. And you saw that red error there. That was for the SDR Play support. I didn't install the API on the Pi. There was a link that I've dropped to allow people to install that. But just remember, we've got this API server running on 8091. Okay. And let's see. I'll go ahead and we'll just we'll open another window. I could have did screen or something on the Pi, but so in this other window, you'll need to clone this SDRangel CLI because I don't have this installed by default yet to the Raspberry Pi. You can do it really anywhere. Do a git clone, which actually it already exists here on the Pi because I did install it, but that's how you would clone it down. I'm just trying to save a little time here because it does take a little while to build and get it configured. You'll come down to the prerequisites. So we need node, and npm really is all you need on the Raspberry Pi image that I made. So we'll do a sudo install of node.js and npm, which is about 50 megs that it'll pull down and install. Let's see. Once you have that installed, see, you can, I did go ahead and update, so sudo npm install npm-g. Clone the repository, which I already mentioned. You would install the global dependencies, and you could read this just as easily as I can, but this is what I did, the steps that I took. So install the global dependencies, which you'll see we'll come back that it's installed. It'll probably talk about some warnings, some issues with some of the older packages, that's fine. I'm just doing this for testing right now. You can see there's low severity and the package is there, and you can address that as needed. Anyways, we'll change into the SDRangel CLI. You do an npm install, which I have already done, and then you'll do an npm start, and you can continue down. I'm going to stop here for now on this video, but you can go further and basically build and serve directly, so on and so forth. I'm just going to stop right here at the npm start because I've already built everything, and I'll let this get up and running, or get this up and running. Okay. The other thing you're going to have to do is on the DragonOS Focal. You'll notice there's a couple different, there's two different versions of SDRangel, and it gets kind of put in different places. 6.12.1 is installed by a deb package, and that was the latest at the time that I built this. The other is under other. There's one that I manually compiled on DragonOS Focal to include what was needed to support SDR Play through SOAPy, so that's there as well. It's a slightly older version. I need to get around to putting those both on the same page, but that's there as well. We'll go ahead and we'll start the newest one, because for this video I'm just going to use an RTLSDR that's plugged into the Raspberry Pi. And I'll go ahead and start that up while this CLI is starting up in the background here, and then we'll just tie this all together. Okay, so now I've got the SDRangel GUI interface open on my desktop. Let's take a look here. And so now the CLI, which is what we're going to use to control the API on the server, is both running on the Pi. So it's a little bit of a it would be nice if the GUI could control the API per se, but that's not possible, so, or at least not yet. So if we open up the and I'm going to have to see if this will allow on any IP. Let's see. We'll try. All right. All right, well, let's go a little further. In this video here. So we left off, we did the install's already done. Try and do ng. Okay, so the ng build part finished. We're going to go ahead and we'll install this Node.js server. And let's see, we'll change into the dist SDRangel CLI that it created, and we'll try, let's see, HTTP server. We'll run it on the 149 IP, and let's see, we'll stick with the port 4200. Alright, so let's see now. Okay, so now we have our SDRangel CLI, which is, you can see here, is interacting with the 149.8091, which is the server. And so if we look at one of the other terminal, let's see, we'll see. Okay, we validated the URL there. And then let's see, we want to, now this is where it's going to take a little while. So you need to add a source device. And this CLI is going to help you do this. So this is where it's going to take a little while. After you do that, you can see back here on the server, you see it's generating the wisdom file. So we'll let that sit for a second. Now you could pre-generate, from my understanding, the wisdom file and reference this with the SDRangel server, so it should speed this part up. Alright, so we waited, and I'm looking here, I'm jumping back over. Wisdom file is done, so we can see it added a file input. We want to change that device. Come down, we'll make it the RTLSDR. That adds that. Then you want to add a channel from here. Come down, remote channel sync. We'll hit OK. Come over here, we'll take a look at the device settings for the RTLSDR. Keep in mind you're going to have to raise your gain, and you're going to have to just kind of control this manually. So I'll try this. The decimation, you got to be careful changing this a lot. I've seen it crash the SDRangel GUI. We'll try, let's see, is it 250 cents? Sample rate. Okay. Come back to the summary. We'll edit the remote sync settings. And we want to change this to the IP of the DragonOS that's on the laptop. So what I'm on now, the local, I guess you'd consider it the local end IP, because this is going to send data back, which is what we want to retrieve. Port 9090 is fine. Come here. We'll start out with something simple first. We'll start this device up, and so if you were starting fresh, you'd come up here, you'd change your source to remote input, you hit OK. It's going to put an interface like this here. You're going to want to put your remote API information on the top one, which is 149, and we know that the API was on 8090. and you should click info and get a green on the remote. The data we can see is coming in. I had to put the IP address, again this is the IP address of the local machine that I am on, so it's listening to itself for that data to come in. I checked the port 9090. Keep in mind, I think when SDRangel comes up, I think this is 9091, whereas the default in the server is 8091, so make sure you got that. You could use multi cast, I guess, yeah, and once you type this in here, the set data link doesn't seem to do much anything. You just hit enter in where you put the IP address, and so we see we got some information coming in, and if I hit start, I've got some of that data flowing in here from the Raspberry Pi on the remote end. And you can see there's that 256K. You could come down here. You can change the decimation factor here as well. There's a lot of settings in here, and I'll dig deeper into this maybe on another video, because there's a lot to cover. I just want to get some basic setup going here. And so now we got this information here. So if we go ahead and, for example, just something simple here, FM demodulator, and we add that here, we can see that I can tune on the local end and use the channel. Let's see. But if you need to change, for example, gain or frequency, you're going to have to go back over to here. You go to device settings. We can try automatic gain. Let's see. 95. Try. Let's see if we can find another station. Actually, I'll just go back to 95. So there's not much going on here. It's a talk show, but we can maybe adjust this a little bit and you'll see how it's affecting this. So that's, I'm sure you could hear, probably hear the audio. The signal could be, could probably mess with the decimation factor. We could take the DC spike out. Again, you got to be careful changing the decimation factor. So anyways, a little complicated, but that's using DragonOS on both the Pi and a laptop, and really the only thing that needed to be added to the Pi was the SDRangel CLI, just to make it a little easier to configure the server for now. So we'll come back to this. I'll like expand on it a little bit more, we'll check out some different channels. We'll probably even try a different radio, maybe a Blade RF or Hacker RF, or maybe even the SDR Play equipment, using that on the remote end and then sending it back to our server here. All right, well, thanks for hanging in there. All right, bye.